Well, welcome everybody. Just a few logistics here at the beginning. First of all, I'd like to mention some of the other programs we're going to be having this year at the Alfred Shaker Museum, every one of them being on Sunday afternoon at 1:30, and they're all part of the Sid Emery Memorial Forum. On June 24th, we'll be having Mayor Tom Cody of Sanford. He'll be here talking about Sanford and its future. August 26th, author Eleanor Phillips Brackbill will speak about her book about Harriet Smith Pullen, the Queen of the Yukon Gold Rush. And then October 14th, a representative of the Center for Wildlife in Cape Nettic will join us with friends, well, not exactly what those friends are going to be, to talk about their work in rehabbing injured, ill, and abandoned wildlife. So we'll hope you join us for one of those other presentations. The Shaker Museum is a volunteer nonprofit organization, so we can use all the help we can get. And although there's no cost for you today, if you'd like to give a donation, we would greatly appreciate it. Or join us for future events, spread the word about the museum, maybe even joining the Friends of the Alfred Museum or volunteering. You can speak to myself or Linda or Boo after if you would like more information. And today it is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker. It's not every day that you get a chance to bring someone back to your own town after nearly 100 years absence. And at least for today, I am putting away my bitterness toward this individual for throwing down the Red Sox jersey and taking up the cause of the New York Yankees in order to hear his story, the story about his life and his unbelievable baseball career. So without any further words from me, here is the one and the only Babe Ruth.
Boy, I'm really thrilled to be here. I don't know if anybody remembers, well, probably not in this crowd, but you've read about it. It's about 100 years ago. I'm 119 years old today. Glad to be here, glad to be anywhere at this point. So, back in 1919 when I played for the Red Sox, there was something called barnstorming. After the season, if we wanted to make a little bit more money, some of the Red Sox would go out to the different towns around the area, in New England, in the Midwest, and would make a little bit of money. So I was invited to come up here, myself and 7 out of the Red Sox. Stuffy McGinnis was one of the guys that I come up with. So I believe it was called Goodall Field. It's around the corner here somewhere. It's close by. So what I remember about that game is that they had a good team. Sanford had a good team, and they put me at third base. Now I'm an outfielder, a right fielder. You never see a left-handed third baseman. I made an error. It was about the 6th inning. It was the 6th inning. Forget who the pitcher, of course, was, but it's kind of cold. It was like October 1st, my last year with the Red Sox. I remember I hit right on the nose, right out to left field. And the umpire, he looked at it. First he said foul, then he said fair. And I ran around the bases. It was a home run, right? So a couple of years later, well, more than a few years later, I come up here to Sebago Lake to fish with some of my buddies. And they told me, I know, babe, remember that home run you hit at Goodall Field? Yeah, they erected a little stand there. They put a little, a soda or a country of soda, something like that. So I went up there and I looked at it. There it is right there. Babe's Place. I couldn't believe it. Just for me. So, let me tell you about growing up. People probably don't know this about me, but I'll tell you, is that I grew up in Baltimore, born in 1895, and I was kind of, I guess you call it a ruffian. My father owned a bar, my mother also worked in the bar. I was 7 years old and I roamed around, I could do anything I wanted. And I remember coming home a lot. The police would bring me home, the cops, and they'd bring me into my father and they'd say, you know, Mr. Ruth, this kid's incorrigible. Oh, excuse me. We got a late arrival. Fans are coming in. The 2nd inning. Have a seat, sir. on in.
Sit over here.
So he needs a beating. He says, oh, gee, you know, I me a couple of times, but I know I was about 7 or 8 years old. I can remember this distinctly. I'm about 7 or 8 years old. My father calls to me. He says, babe, get your hat and your coat. We're going downtown to the brother's house, your new home. I said, what, my new home? Well, what did I do? What's going on here? So I got on the subway. It wasn't a subway. It was a, didn't have the subways in those days, or the train. So we went down to the brother's house, I guess it was, St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys. And I remember going to the front gate, my father knocking, and these two big brothers come out, Brother Gilbert and Brother Matthias. He says, George, this is your new home. Whoa, this is my new home. I always wanted a mansion with servants and things like that. I know, it says, this is your new home, babe. Come on in. And geez, I was kind of scared, you know. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And my father says, babe, he called me babe. He says, George, you'll do all right. And he kind of left. And I don't remember saying goodbye or anything to him. But I liked it there because, you know, the food that they had there, some of the kids said, man, this stuff is rot gut. But what I was used to, this stuff was really good. And I remember if we were really good and we didn't get in trouble, on Sundays, we'd get 2 extra hot dogs. Okay, so you heard about me when I was older, and that's where it started. So I was about 8 years old, and Brother Matthias, who was the head of discipline, he comes up to me one day, because they didn't have any megaphones or anything in the school. He says, babe, why don't you come out to the yard and see if you can play some ball? I said, okay, you know, I was kind of a big kid. And I was hitting off, you know, kids were pitching to me. And this one kid, these kids were big. He says to me, hey kid, why don't you go back to kindergarten? That got me riled up. I remember I just hit a few balls, bang, bang, bang. And I started to play real good. I was on the team, maybe 5 or 6 years. Maybe, you know, 7 or 8 years I played for St. Mary's School. And then one day, I was about 18 and 19 years old, and one of the brothers said, babe, why don't you come to the principal's office? I said, oh man, I'm in trouble. I'm really going to get into some trouble right now. So I go to the principal's office, and there's these 2 guys. They were scouts, baseball scouts, Brother Matthias, Brother Gilbert. And they said, babe, you want to be a professional baseball player? I said, whoa, yeah. And Jack Dunn, he says, the contract is for $150 a month plus room and board. And I said, geez, I don't think I can afford $150. He says, no, we pay you, you know, that's the way it goes, don't do that. So my first, it was my rookie season, it was before my rookie season, my first spring training was in Fayetteville. I remember this distinctly. First time that I've been out of the reform school, they call it a reform school. They had an elevator. The first time I'd ever seen an elevator. Unbelievable. And I was up and down that elevator. When we weren't playing ball, I was going up and down the elevator. And some of the old guys, some of the old ball players, you know, they were from the South, they were veterans and stuff. They looked at me and they said, that's a babe in the woods. That's how people thought I got my name. Then there were some kids that had a bicycle. They're like 12 years old. And the first time I'd ever seen a bicycle, so I was riding around all day, and they said, oh, babe, he's a babe in the woods. And then Jack Dunn, he had a reputation of signing young guys. They call it Dunn's Babe, so that's how I got my nickname. I think I hit a home run my first day at Fayetteville. And went to the minors, went to Providence, Rhode Island, rather. And then got called up by the Red Sox in June of 1914, my first day with the Red Sox. I remember getting off the train at this place called South Station in Boston. Anybody knows about this?
Oh, yeah.
You know about that South Station in Boston? I get off the train and I go into South Boston. Here I am, you know, just up from the minor leagues. I don't know anybody. I'm kind of a hick or whatever they call it. And I go into this coffee shop and start talking to the waitress, Helen. and she became my first wife. That's how we met. I played for the Red Sox. My first appearance for the Red Sox was, I think, June 11th, 1914, where I beat the Cleveland Naps, they called them at the time. It was 4-3. Yeah, I beat them 4-3. They wanted me to pitch, but I could hit. I wanted to get in the lineup. I wanted to hit, but the manager says, "No, babe, we need you on the mound." So I played for the Red Sox from 1914 to 1919. People don't know this. They think, "Oh, Babe Ruth, he's a Yankee." I played for the Red Sox for those 4 years. We won 2 world championships, 1914, 1918. Yep, 1914, it was 1916 and 1918. And in the 1918 World Series, people don't know this, but I pitched and won 2 games. We beat the Cubs 4-1, and I set a record of 29 2/3 scoreless innings. Maybe you don't know, there's a lot of statistics, but that was really good. And some guy beat it in the 60s. I think his name was Koufax or something like that. I remember that. Koufax, right. And then I was with the Red Sox for like 4 years, and I was kind of, they called me kind of a ruffian. I guess I drank and I ran around a little too much. But when I was on the field, I always played. I played hard. I remember this one game in 1917. I was pitching because I was a starting pitcher. First 4 pitches were called the ball by this umpire, Brick Owens, I think his name was. I went ballistic. I ran down, I screamed at him. A few choice words I can't repeat here, but he kicked me out of the game. Ernie Shaw, the batter that I walked, he was thrown out stealing, and Ernie Shaw pitched a perfect game. So Ernie Shaw and I pitched a perfect game. All they could talk about in the papers was Babe the next day, so I got all the credit. So in 1919, that was my last year with the Red Sox. Harry Frazee, who was the owner, sold me to the Yankees for $125,000 plus the mortgage on Fenway Park and then part of a play called No No Nanette. So I go to the Yankees in 1920. And I had hit like 19 home runs the year before. With the Red Sox, probably more than any other of the teams combined. So 1920, I went to the Yankees. To tell you the truth, I was kind of scared going to the big city, to the Yankees. It was kind of scary. I don't know how I was going to do. First year with the Yankees, 1920, I hit 54 home runs. Unbelievable. I was the toast of the town. I was a celebrity, they called me. The Bambino, you know? And I probably full of myself and didn't take care of myself that much. Then the next year I hit 59 home runs. We didn't win the World Series, but I remember hitting 59 home runs. The next year had a pretty good year, but the year after that, 1923, we beat the Giants in the World Series. That was a real thrill, my first win in the World Series. But before that, we played at the Polo Grounds in New York, and I think it was in 1923 that we opened the new Yankee Stadium, which was called the house that Ruth built, right? So I said to myself, "Oh man, I like to hit a home run. Just if I give a year off my life to hit a home run." I think it was the 6th inning, hit a home run. Right field. The first guy ever to hit a home run at Yankee Stadium. That was one of my biggest thrills. Then with the Yankees, I think it was the World Series, and it was the World Series of 1926. I don't know if people remember this. 1927 was a great year, but 1926, we were playing the St. Louis Cardinals. And the World Series was tied 3-3, bottom of the 9th, 2 out. I'm up there, Grover Cleveland Alexander, the old pitcher, you remember him. He walked me, I'm on first base. So the Cardinals are winning 3-2, I'm on first base. 2 outs, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided to run. Ran down second base, and the catcher for the Cardinals, O'Farrell, I think his name was, threw me out. That was the end of the series. If I could have dug a hole into the ground, I would have gone into the ground right then and there. 1927 with the Yankees. That was probably my best year. They called the Yankees the Murderers Row. Why did they call it the Murderers Row? Because we won 104 games, you know. We'd beat everybody. I remember the lineup. Everybody in the lineup hit 300. Earl Combs, center field, Mark Koenig, batting second, shortstop, myself, the Babe, Lou Gehrig, Bob Musial. Then it was second baseman was Tony Push-em-up Lazzari. You know why they called him Push-em-up Lazzari? Yeah, right. The reason they call him Tony Push-em-up Lazzari is that when he was up, he would bunt, and he would get the run at the second or third base. He would push them up. Jumpin' Joe Dugan was the third baseman, you know. Why did they call him Jumpin' Joe Dugan? People don't want. Anybody know why they called him? Nobody cares. No. They jumped to different teams. That's what it is. Then Pat Collins was a great defensive catcher, and then Herb Pennock was our pitcher. We were 104 games. We beat the Pirates in the World Series 4-1. That was probably my greatest year. And then one of the other highlights of my career with the Yankees, baseball highlights, was the called shot. Anybody know about the called shot? I see a couple. Yeah, right, the called shot. What that was, it was probably the third or fourth game with the 1932 World Series against the Cubs. Charlie Root is on the mound, and we were winning the World Series. And the Cubs, they really hated the Yankees. They were really on us, and the fans were really giving me a hard time in right field. Reason being is that we really had a feud with the other team because Mark Koenig, who was our shortstop, went over to the Cubs in the season, and the Cubs won the pennant, but they didn't give Mark Koenig the share that he deserved. So we hated each other. So I'm up there in the 6th inning, and Charlie Root's on the mound. First pitch, ball. Okay. Next pitch, strike one. It's 1-1. Okay. The next pitch, ball, right about here. I look out at center field. It's a true story. I go like this. It only takes one. It only takes one. A called shot. All right, so the next pitch is 1 ball, 2 strikes, right? The next pitch from Root, curveball on the outside. I swear it took longer than the second half of the Hoover administration to reach home plate, but eventually did. It was 2-2. So I look out again, and there's Charlie Root. He says, yeah, I'm not going to knock you down. I could tell by the way he was looking. I'm not going to knock you down, but I'm going to fire that ball right in there. Next pitch, outside corner, bang. Center field, longest home run ever hit at Wrigley Field. I'm rounding the bases. I had to say to myself, you lucky son of a gun. I gotta say that he's a lucky son of a gun. If I didn't hit that home run, it would be a real bush leaguer. But I hit the home run. We won the World Series. Some people said, well, I really didn't call the shot. But let me tell you, it's a true story. I did call the shot. And there were some famous people at the game at that time. One of them that I met there became the President of the United States in 1932. Roosevelt, young Theodore, not Theodore, Franklin, there you go, Frankie Roosevelt, right. So this is 1932, and with the Yankees, we won 7 pennants and 4 World Series. When I was with the Yankees, I have to tell you that off the field it was kind of hard for me because my first wife, Helen, who lived in Sudbury, we had a farm in Sudbury, we were separated when I went to the Yankees, and then she passed away when I was playing for New York. And I had a girlfriend at the time, Claire Hodgson, who was I guess you'd call it a Ziegfeld Folly showgirl or something like that. Wonderful woman. And she had a daughter and I had a daughter. And we wanted to get married, but couldn't do it. Couldn't get married. Reason being, I'm a Roman Catholic and I couldn't get married. It was against the church law. So when my wife passed away, Helen passed away, then we got married. So Claire, I gotta say, she was the person that was responsible for me settling down, you know, because I was kind of crazy. I drank too much. Partied too much, hung around, but hung around a lot of bad places. But she straightened me out, and she taught me one important thing. The secret to a successful marriage. It's only 4 words. Those 4 words are, yes, dear, you're right. Right. That was very important. That's what I learned. We were married, we had a great marriage. In 1932, of course, we won the World Series. 1934 was my last year. Really couldn't get around on the fastball anymore. It was about time for me to leave. So I wanted to manage. You know, I figured I could be a good manager. I went up to Colonel Rupert, who was the owner of the Yankees at the time, and I said, Colonel, I'd like to manage the Yankees or a major league team. And he says, well, George, I don't think so, but there's a minor league team down the road in Jersey City or something. You can start with them. I says, no, I don't want to start with the minor leagues. I want to be a big league manager. And never got to be a manager. That's one thing that I really regret. I could have been a good manager, but what they did is they blackmailed me. They blackballed me. They said, Ruth, he can't manage himself. How can he manage a professional team? So I never did get to manage in the majors. Retired and then played for maybe a half a year with the Boston Braves. People don't remember this. I played with the Braves, and then they played in Boston in 1934. They wanted me to play for them, and they told me I was going to be the manager, but that didn't turn out. They really were honest with me. And my last game, I hit 3 home runs in Pittsburgh, Forbes Field. I remember that. So I retired, and after retiring, didn't really play that much. Of course, I didn't play ball, but I didn't get into coaching or managing. I had a lot of friends. I'd go around the country, maybe playing a little barnstorming. I've made some appearances, did some Hollywood stuff. Came up here a lot, too. I love to hunt and fish up in Maine. Sebago Lake, I remember Sebago Lake, and I think the guy's name was Mr. Travis, one of my buddies up here. We'd go fishing. Great, it's fantastic. Things that I remember, funny things that happened to me. Well, people say, babe, what was the biggest thrill of your life? Wasn't baseball, and people don't believe me, but it's true. I went to the industrial school for boys. I never graduated. I kind of graduated, but not really. So my daughter, Dorothy, she graduated from high school in Sudbury, Mass. I think it was when I was with the Yankees. And Miller Huggins was my manager. And in those days, you had to, show up to play ball. And I asked him, can I go back there? Just for the graduation. He let me go back. And it was like 2 games or something I missed. And I saw her get the diploma. And that was something. I can really feel that now. Then that was kind of happy and a sad part of my life. I was really happy. Some of the sad things were with my dad. I really wasn't that close to my dad. He ran a bar in Baltimore. Didn't really see him that much, but I remember as after my first or second year with the Yankees, with the Red Sox, I went back to Baltimore and I tended bar. You might have seen those pictures in the paper of me tending bar in Baltimore. And I remember working with my father. He was kind of I don't know what you call him, kind of gruff or whatever, but I remember working with him, and he said one thing to me I always remember. Even though I hit all those home runs and that, he says, George, you did a good job. That meant everything to me. I couldn't believe it. It was just great. I remember a time, this was it must have been 1930, Wrigley Field. I'm sitting in the dugout, and these reporters, they were our buddies. We'd go out drinking with them and all that. He comes up to me. This is right after the Depression. He says, babe, do you realize you made $75,000 last year? You made more than the President of the United States. I said to him, yeah, I had a better year. Right. So those are the funny things that happened. when I retired, I really didn't do that much. Met a lot of famous people. When I was playing for the Yankees, one of the good things about playing for the Yankees is that I was in New York City. I get to meet some incredible people. I remember, this is typically after a game, or right during the game, I hit a 3-run homer, run around the bases, tip my cap to the fans, wink at the girls, get into my fur coat. I mean, you ever see me with that fur coat and cap, right? Go down to Jack Dempsey's, have a few beers. I met, there was this one guy, it was Damon Runyon, Grantland Rice, famous writers would talk. They introduced me to this one guy. He says, "Babe, I want you to meet Eugene O'Neill. He's a literary giant." A little guy, I couldn't believe it, he's a literary giant. So he says to me, "Babe, you are truly Bunyan-esque." I said, "Who's Bunyan? Who's Bunyan and what team does he play for?" So that's about my career, and I'm really glad to be here today to talk to people. Like I say, I'm 114 years old, but I still enjoy going back to the places where I played, and people really enjoying Babe Ruth. People say, "Babe, how did you make all those records? You hit 714 home runs, over 3,000 RBIs, 92 victories on the mound. How did you do that? Because the guys now are using steroids." I said, "No, girls, beer, and hot dogs. That's all I needed." That's all I needed. So does anybody have any questions maybe to the Babe? No.
When were you first showed in Cooperstown?
Very good question. 1937, I was the first class at myself and Ty Cobb and a few other, 4 or 5 other great ball players were inducted in 1937. Ty Cobb was a good friend of mine. They said we really didn't get along with each other on the field, but off the field we were buddies after a while. I remember one time, I think it was the Lombard Estates in Georgia. Ty and I went down there deer hunting, and I caught 4 and he caught 3. And he started arguing, "No, I caught more than you." And then actually he got bit by a rattlesnake down there. About 2 minutes later, a rattlesnake died.
That'll warn you.
Wait me, wait.
So that's about the story of Babe Ruth. And I appreciate everybody coming out. Yes, you have a question?
What year was the number retired?
Number was actually never retired. That's a good question. It was never retired by the Yankees. However, when numbers were, you don't see it on the Red Sox uniform because they didn't have it at the time.
Right.
When I played with the Yankees, the owner of the Yankees, Colonel Rupert, wanted to put numbers on the back of uniforms. So I was batting number 3 in the batting order. So number 3 was Ruth, number 4 was Gehrig. You know,
5 Joe DiMaggio.
5 is Joe DiMaggio, right? Right. Ah, thank you very
When was
much.
the last time you played at Goodall Park in Sanford?
I believe it was October 1st, 1919. There was a game there, as I was saying, a barnstorming game. And we used to do that during the off season. We would play different teams in New England, in the Midwest. And that's, as I said, that's when I hit the home run. I hope to go back there sometime in the future to see what's going on.
It burned down, but it's been built up.
I heard they built it up in 2015.
Yeah.
Right, they burned, yeah. Right. All right, well,
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. And again, if you want to look at some of the memorabilia I have up here, some of the pictures and the books, you're welcome to do that. And this is a glove, I should pass this around, that I used in 1919.
No.
This would be, 1946.
Not a lot of padding.
No,
No
and you
padding.
see that,
Okay.
right,
Yeah, that's
that's when they taught us to catch with 2 hands.
You're lefty.
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
lefty
right.
too.
That's right.
such.
Yeah, I'm a lefty.
You must have been very rare to be a left-handed pitcher at that time in life.
Left-handed pitcher?
Mm.
Yeah, there were a few left-handed pitchers.
Were they?
Yeah, I remember back in the St. Mary's school, first thing I did was pitch. I was just born to pitch. I just was like, I just knew what to do. For some reason, I just knew how to pitch, you know? And like I say, with the Red Sox, they wanted me to pitch. Babe, we want me to pitch. But I wanted to hit. I knew I could hit home runs. I tell you, I hit like 20 home runs with the Red Sox in 1919. Then with the Yankees, 54 home runs the second year.
Great stories.
Don't forget the big one. Don't forget the big one, 60.
60 you hit 1 year.
1927, good point. 1927, it was the last game of the year against the Washington Senators. I think it was Tom Zachary on the mound, and we used to always kid about the Senators. They weren't a very good team, the Washington Nationals. First in war, first in peace, and last in American League. So it's the last game of the year. It's the last game of the year, and I had 59 home runs, and I think it was like the 6th inning. And I think it was Tom Zachary that I hit it off of. Long drive into the upper deck at Yankee Stadium for 60 home run. I remember running on those bases, and I said, let some son of a bitch beat that record.
Fortunately, it happened, huh?
Right.
Well, thank you very much, and Babe will stay around if you have questions for him, kind of one-on-one, and as he said, he does have some things for you to look at if you'd like to.
And we have refreshments.
And we do
Yeah,
have
refreshments,
refreshments. That's right. So stick around for all of that.
Thank you.